Just the other day, I was thinking about my video talking about the Serverblight. Now, I don't think that it's my best work, but overall, I'd say it's pretty good for my standards, and I figured that it could use an update. So, without any further ado, let the video commence. Now, for those of you who clicked on the video or are involved in the TF2 community nowadays, you probably know what the Serverblight is. For those of you who don't, it's basically a malicious entity haunting the game of Team Fortress 2, which abducts players and assimilates them into it by sucking their souls into the game, before it then proceeds to torture them while simultaneously using their bodies as puppets to bring in new victims. It's also nigh on invincible, since the rules of the game don't seem to apply to it, meaning that your best options are to run and kill yourself in a way that leaves no body behind for it to assimilate. Oh, and if you don't, you're effectively trapped in the game with it, unable to leave. It does have a couple of weaknesses, however. As stated before, it requires a body in order to assimilate you, meaning that if you die out of bounds or somewhere where it can't reach anything of you, it can't get you. Additionally, blight puppets are unable to normally respawn, with the creators of the series, the brilliant Two Idiot Germans, being pretty consistent with this fact. So if a blight puppet dies in an inaccessible area, presumably this monstrosity cannot remake the body. Now, armed with this knowledge, what are the best ways to end the blight? As I mentioned in my last video, aimbots are a perfectly valid way to deal with the blight for a couple of reasons. They cannot get assimilated, they have perfect accuracy, and they don't put any humans at risk. Furthermore, even if the blight can rebuild its puppets, it cannot do that with every puppet in the game dead, meaning that the bots can hypothetically shut down a blight outbreak even without completely destroying its puppets. However, these guys do have a downside. For one, they cannot distinguish between normal players and the blight, meaning that they at best would effectively be a berserker last resort. In lobbies where the players still outnumber the blight, they would probably also do more harm than good. Additionally, they can do nothing against blighted players on their team, and their IQ is 0. TF2 players also have fairly negative opinions on the bots because of the crisis that they cause, so acquiring intact ones might be difficult to do. Good berserker or last resort in my opinion, but aside from that, they fall short. Energy weapons are another method that is brought up a lot, and honestly for pretty good reason. The Blight can't reconstruct bodies if there's nothing to reconstruct them from, and these weapons disintegrate on kill. There are 5 classes that can use disintegration weapons, with those weapons being the Neon Annihilator, Man Melter, Phlogistonator, and Third Degree for the Pyro, the Cowmangler and the Righteous Bison for the Soldier, the Pomson, Short Circuit, and the Capper for the Engineer, the Capper and Bat Saber for the Scout, and the Shooting Star for Sniper. Energy weapons are honestly a pretty good strategy, and they don't require you to change much about your playstyle to use. There are 2 problems with them, however, with the first being their scarcity. While 5 classes have weapons that would technically work for this, only 3 of these classes have weapons that are readily available: Soldier, Pyro, and Engineer. And Engineer's weapons, to be honest, kind of suck, meaning that you really only have 2 classes, Pyro and Soldier. And that leads us to a second problem. Energy weapons tend to either remove a useful feature or be entirely situational. For instance, the Man Melter and the Righteous Bison are seen largely, for the most part, as 2 of the worst secondaries in the game, for having a much slower firing speed and being underpowered, respectively. The Neon Annihilator only really works while in water, and everyone forgets that the Third Degree exists for a reason. And while the Flog and the Cowmangler are actually good weapons, they remove Air Blast and random crits. This may not seem like a big deal, but these things can mean the difference between life and death. Air Blast is highly useful for keeping the Blight from closing the distance, and while random crits being removed may not seem like a big deal, the difference between doing 50 and 250 damage can and will be felt. So to sum it up, I'd say that energy weapons are a valid strategy, but you stand to lose a bit that could potentially keep you alive. So overall, not the best strategy, but if you have a plan and the weapons necessarily available to you, I'd say go for it. Now, one of the reasons why the Blight is so deadly is because it doesn't work by the normal rules of TF2, which is probably derived from it stealing people's souls. This means that people have to play by the rules for Blight. doesn't. So, hypothetically, a soul-transferred player free from the Blight's control could be capable of much more than a typical player, such as using non-class weapons and feats of strength beyond a typical game avatar. We've even seen this in a person who I assume had his soul-transferred ghillie suit, who could pick up weapons that the engineer class was not capable of wielding. However, this is effectively the riskiest option, as the only known way to have your soul transferred is via the Blight, meaning that you would effectively have to have the process initiated, then stopped before the Blight brainwashed you, which could be incredibly dangerous. And really, for minimal returns, you would still have to play by the same rules as the Blight, meaning that there's no respawning, you would feel every bit of pain, and you could still be assimilated. Additionally, it would be a one-way trip, as soul transference kills your physical body, as in the real world. Overall, this is probably the most stupid method, and only someone suicidal or desperate would try it. Now, the last solution, it's basically a joke, but I'm including it anyway. Did you know that the Blight is officially a TF2 freak? It has its own wiki page and everything. So the freaks could potentially be used against it. And if you see how the freaks work, the Blight does not stand a chance. Painis Cupcake is literally invulnerable and battles with other freaks daily, while the Blight on occasion struggles with regular players. If Painis Cupcake, Piss Cakehole, Ass Pancakes, Nuclear Scout, Christian Brutal Sniper, or hell, even the likes of Polite Spy, Intelligent Heavy, or Vagineer ran into the Blight would be wiped out. There is no contest. However, this does come with problems of its own. Specifically, reintroducing the freaks might cause another issue for the game, but we'll deal with that when we deal with that. Not the most likely solutions, but one of the more fun ones. So, with all of that being said, you may be wondering what I think that is the most likely solution to the Blight, and my answer is none of them. While solutions to the problem may be obvious to us as observers, the people in-universe don't have that clarity. While the Blight invasion and reflection could have easily been put down in the early stages by teamwork, people did what they would do in such a situation. They panicked, making it easy for the Blight to consume them. Additionally, having clear-cut solutions for the problem doesn't make much sense for narrative reasons. If people simply behaved rationally, the Blight wouldn't be much of a problem. But people don't behave rationally while in dangerous situations, and honestly, who could blame them? I wouldn't expect to run into anything like the Blight while playing TF2 to relax. Now, this isn't me saying that I don't think that these solutions will be used at all. The pair of unintelligent inhabitants of Germany are very active in the community that they've created. Energy weapons might be used once to fend off the Blight or as a last-ditch effort to escape the map that has no kill zones. The bots might be brought up once, but nothing will come of it. As for the freaks and soul transfer, I actually think they might go with that option for Aaron. He's clearly not in a good state of mind, and if he slips up and gets transferred, he has nothing left to lose and goes, and well, has the capability of going all in on the Blight. But I don't think that it makes sense for this. As they've said, they don't want it to become like the MCU, and I can understand that. Focusing on keeping the horror as horror is admirable. Anyway, that's my analysis of the solutions that are floating around. Thanks for watching it this far, and please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Oh, and to idiot Germans on the off chance that you see this, keep up the great work.